And we're going to get started and dig into mental and physical well-being. Please help me welcome to the stage Dr. Marc Watkins from Kroger Health, Tian, Philson, Andie Bernard, and our moderator, Dr. Ashley Solomon.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome. Thank you so much for spending some of your morning with us, and to the organizers for inviting all of us to be part of this session. I was really excited to see that this was a topic, and from what I understand, a topic that was really requested by the Game Changers to be discussed. So we're looking forward to getting into some good convo this morning. So I'd like to start just by having the panelists introduce themselves and tell us a little bit, 1 minute, I know there's much more to say, but about yourself and your work. So do you want to start, Dr. Marc?
Yeah, so my name is Marc Watkins. I'm the Chief Medical Officer at Kroger and Kroger Health. And for the audience, if you don't know what Kroger Health is, we're a pretty strong band of about 24,000 associates that make up our healthcare division of the Kroger Co. That spans our retail pharmacies, our clinics inside of the grocery store. We also operate a specialty pharmacy, a pharmacy benefit manager solution, which has about 400,000 covered lives, as well as what I get really proud of, and proud of all of the teams, but our dietitian nutrition service line. Get really passionate about it, especially around our food as medicine strategy. And then I also have the privilege of sitting with our total rewards and benefit team on our entire health and wellness design for our more than 400,000 associates across the country.
It's a small endeavor. Yeah. No, thank you for being with us. Tian.
Good morning, everyone. I am Tian Philson. I'm the founder of Love, Strength, and Fitness, LLC. And what I like to say is I help people go inward. So through wellness and mindset coaching or through yoga instruction, as well as facilitated workshops, speaking engagements, all of those things, I help people go inward to find their deepest truths. I found that through my own personal journey through yoga while I was still in the corporate space, and I found just how transformative that experience was. And so seeking an opportunity to help people even off the mat is where the coaching side came in and the certifications there. And so now I get the distinct privilege and honor to work with all of you and many others in their endeavors to just really unleash their greatest, most authentic self.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Andie Bernard. I am actually a trauma therapist. I sit with people in their deepest experiences and help them come back to who they were always meant to be. I am the owner of a mental health practice called Rootworks Wellness. My most important endeavor right now is a community initiative called the Center for Mind, Body, and Play, and it's in Gaslight Clifton. And we are a healing community. It's a place immediately upon entering, you know that healing is possible. So we have 22 healers there, acupuncturists, therapists, yoga instructors, teachers, trainings, all of those things. So when you walk in, we're there to greet you on your healing journey.
Thank you. Thanks again to all of you for taking some time this morning. So I've asked our panelists to get a little bit personal today because I think their stories will really resonate in the way that they are really working to integrate their mental and emotional experience into the work that they're doing out in the world. So I'd like to start with just kind of acknowledging that we're finally at a point in our culture where we can sort of no longer pretend that our work selves are separate from our entire being. And that's not realistic or productive. And so when we recognize that our physical selves and our mental well-being are intersecting, we can start to think about how we show up in our professional lives. So what I would like for each of you to speak to is how have you seen that just to be true for you? So how can you tell day to day in your work when you're not tending to your well-being? Tian, do you want to start?
Absolutely. So for me, and it's really been a constant practice of noticing what's coming up when I'm feeling that way, when I'm feeling like this heaviness, if you will. And when I'm not tending to my well-being, everything feels like a burden. Even the things that I love, even the things that are generally very exciting for me, the things that I'm looking forward to, for some reason, there's a cloud over that. And so that's when I have to pause and say, what is going on? Why am I not excited for this? What's happening? And I'm excited for Andie to share because I know the work that she does and the signs and the signals our body gives us, but it's that tuning into the bodily sensations that go, I'm maxed out, I'm done, I don't have any more space right now. And so even the things that should or generally make me feel excited, there's no space. And so that's how I can tell, and then that's when I have to just go back to what I know is gonna help me to create that space, to help me create that sense of ease, that calm, so that I can get back to tackling everything.
And we'll definitely talk in our session this morning about what some of those strategies are, but thank you. Andie, do you want to share a little bit more?
Yes, I'll kind of load in on that. I love the fact that you're going inward. I mean, it is the source, right? Our body keeps the score, right? Our body knows what we're feeling. It sends a message up to our brain for our brain to make a story that fits what the body's telling it. And so since Tian just did a beautiful job of talking about inward, I'm going to add to that wisdom that it's all about the environment. So early on in life, our environment was set for us, so we didn't have a lot of power and control, right? Well, when we talk about our work life and our individual lives and us being humans inside that work life, I'm always checking in on my environment too to figure out how is work treating me, how's the environment, and I'm reminding myself first and foremost that I have more power and choice now than I ever have before. So I'm checking in with myself, I'm checking in with my environment, and in that, I'm looking at what do I believe is true for me today. And when I'm not doing that, what I do is I fall into this automatic role of this belief I have about myself. And so do all of you. So for me, that belief is that I only have worth if I'm helping others, that if I don't do something, I'm not worthy, right? Of love, of good things, of all of these things. So what I believe becomes true for me if I am stressed, if I'm not sleeping well, if I'm not taking care of my well-being. So it is a common factor between our environment, checking in with ourselves and our body, and noticing what do we automatically believe about ourselves in stress and in well-being and in calmness.
You know, just adding that, and you heard actually two perspectives, and you'll get another here. And maybe I'll just add to what my colleagues just mentioned. It's not a one-size-fits-all. You just heard part of that. And a lot of this is really about those signals, those cues, and for you to be the best version of yourself, not the best version of someone else, right? So we have a lot of signals, whether it's at work, in our communities, whether it's social media, whether it's Hollywood giving us signals all the time of this is the version you should be, right? Or this is the version you should strive to be. And maybe I'll just pause a little bit and just reflect on something that was very personal to me and maybe share with the group. Because when you're on this journey of being the best version of yourself, you can get a little sideways, right? And so about 10 years ago, I got a little sideways, gained weight, wasn't sleeping well. Just really, I had what I described as sort of a loss of kind of sharpness and focus. And what I noticed is that, I spent a lot of time reading. That's kind of my job. I'm reading medical journals, and I was just struggling retaining the words on the page, right? So I'd read it and wouldn't remember what I read. And I had all these journals, and I got to keep up with things like your continuing. We all have to keep up with things professionally, but I wasn't remembering any of it. I was like, something's going on, Dr. Watkins. You've not been taking care of yourself. So I was my own primary care doctor. Strike number one, right? I'm like watching my own labs, my own meds, and I get a life insurance physical, right? It's about that time. And I'm looking at the results and going, wow, you've kind of taken your eye off the ball here. So I essentially had a biochemical imbalance, and so I'll maybe speak a little bit about that, how, when you have a biochemical imbalance in your body and you have the signals, and so I knew them very well, how they were controlling my mental acuity and mental focus. I was always tired. I was always sleepy. I wasn't regulating my sugar very well, right? That really created a lot of fatigue. Didn't sleep well at night, as I just mentioned. And then once we were able to kind of recircle that, my levels of anxiety, my own focus came into sharper acuity, because it was pretty clear I needed to kind of right that ship. That journey is different for everyone. And why I say that is that as humans, and this is not meant to be a lesson in physiology, but we have what we call biological variability. What separates us, and our genes are very, very tiny, but we have a lot of variability, meaning how we might respond to a diet, how we may respond to a medication, how we may respond to things like yoga or exercise or any therapeutic. So I had to just recognize that for myself, right at that ship, and now I'm not struggling reading these journals, which I have to read anyway. So
it sounds like for you, you started to notice these changes in yourself, and you got curious about it and investigated, used the tools at your disposal to kind of investigate a little bit further. And I know that something that often happens, especially for those of us who are spending a lot of our time and energy serving others, whether that's our families, our businesses, our professional roles, et cetera, is that we are ignoring a lot of those things until we can't anymore. And so for some of us, that looks like hitting a wall or hitting some point where we recognize that we can't go on in the way that we have been. So I'm wondering, so you spoke to yours a bit, and for Tian and Andie, have you ever had that experience? And if you have, I'm specifically interested in what are some of those first steps you might have taken right after you hit that wall?
I love this question, because I think that, and tell me if I'm alone here, but sometimes it's not like one time, but it's like you feel yourself skidding right up to that wall, or, it's ongoing, right? As our demands change, as we find our rhythms, and then something knocks us off rhythm. So yes, I've hit the wall and skidded up to the wall and recovered and hit the wall.
Hit it again.
Absolutely. And for me, it's, again, coming back to understanding what works for me, back to what Dr. Watkins was saying, in that for me, I'm at my best when I have movement, order, and I would say space. And I pause when I say space because I mean that in like more than one capacity. So I'll start with movement though. I recently, not recently, actually, it was during the pandemic when we started working from home, or many of us started working from home, and all of a sudden the morning routine shifted, and it was like, oh, I don't have to get out of bed as early. There's no commute, and things became very just like, yes, whatever that word is. And I found myself out of sync with myself. And talking to a friend, and she was sharing her morning routine with me, and I thought to myself, I have the perfect opportunity to create a morning routine because I do have this new time window that I didn't have before. And that was when I first realized that movement was such an important part of my morning, and to not be overly prescriptive about it. So it didn't say, I need to run 30 minutes every day. It didn't say, it said move, just move. And each morning I'd wake up and go, what's the right movement for today? Sometimes that was running, sometimes that was yoga, sometimes that was taking a walk and just enjoying fresh air. But that's when I first realized, even though it's something I have been doing for a long time, just how critical it was. And by sleeping in and by doing all these other things, I eliminated that from my morning, or at least from some degree of consistency. So that was number one, come back to movement. Number two, I can be very go with the flow. For those that are into Ayurveda, very Vata energy if I'm not grounded. And so I need order. Order helps me feel like I'm on the right track. So I actually have a planner that I now use every week to get my week in order. And in fact, if I don't complete my planner and send my son a picture by 8 p.m. every Sunday, I have to pay him $20. It works. because that's how important order is to me. And at first I told him 10, and he's like, oh no. He's like, Chipotle costs more than $10.
Right.
So it's 20, and I don't want to pay him $20, so I get the planner done, and it makes my week better. And then the last one, again, it was space. And for me, space is two things. I love what you said about environment. So when my room, my desk, when things are just everywhere, that clutter, it clutters my mind too. And I'm not super disciplined about it, so it's when I feel that I have to like force myself to take care of that. So that's space. Also space in my calendar. I actually literally have to plan open 3-hour blocks on my calendar to be like, this is your time to just think. Just think. And so those are my three: movement, order, and space.
I want your plan.
Yeah.
Right? That is so good. I love these bits. So when we talk about the wall, same. I've hit the wall many times in my life. I hit the wall many times in a week sometimes, and this is where I really want to say, we have within ourselves, we all have this core being that we are. It's like there, we can touch it, we know it if we go inward on it, but the noise around us, whether it's relational noise or environmental noise or stress or our health, right? It takes us away from the core of who we are, and that core of who we are has the ability to watch us in motion. And for me, I call that self-energy, right? And we can look and measure our self-energy. There's a really fun thing you can all look at, the 8 C's of self-energy, just a few of them: competence, clarity, creativity, curiosity, calmness, contentment, and compassion. I heard so much compassion, Tian, in what you said for yourself. I need movement. So for me, I'm looking at those C's all the time, but I'm doing it in a way that's dosing. So I'm looking every day. I'm dosing about once an hour, going inward for just a moment to see what levels of that self-energy I have. Because for me, daily, if I check in and try to stay in the center of my space, the center of my heart being, the center of my brain, of my body, of the room, then I'm not getting anywhere near that wall in a day. So I'm looking, can I not hit the wall today by focusing on being in the flow state of the center of who I am? So that internalizing, that checking in. Check in with your body. How do I feel? Do I feel relaxed in my muscles so that I can connect with myself and other? Do I feel rigid because the stress is taking me over? If I notice that it's doing that, my story inside, just like I said before, it will tell me what my next hour is going to be. Tie the belief in, what I believe about myself, then that's what my hour is going to be. I'm going to hit a wall if it's high-paced, if it's stressed, if it's not relational. So I'm doing relationship first. You know, the great Alicia Keys just recently said something that stuck with me, and I really was going to bring it here for you today, and I'll say it now, that we do not get in life what we ask for. I want the raise. I want the job. I want the relationships. I want the love. We actually get what we believe in. And so if we can dose for ourselves and know what it is that we believe about ourselves from go, and every day work to transform that based upon who we really are now, I believe in relationship, my capacity to show up for myself. I believe in my ability to move every day. I believe in myself to keep a space that nurtures myself. I believe in myself for the planner. If I can believe it, I can do it. So that's what I do. I'm really focusing on staying in the center of my world so that I don't get anywhere near that wall, because when I get to it, there's so much work I have to do on the back end to build myself back up.
I just really want to say really quickly, I love how much you talk about the belief systems and the inner awareness of those beliefs, because it's so critical in everything, in our well-being, in our ability to just navigate our days. It's like, what are the beliefs that are fueling the actions and the thoughts and the words? And so just thank you for really hitting that home. And I just wanted to acknowledge that, because it's everything.
It really is. And Dr. Marc, just want to respond to this really quickly, and I so want to hear your wisdom here. The reason I want to bring it here, and I say this so much, is in childhood, we really are taught to believe about ourselves what other people tell us about ourselves, but we have more power and choice. as we use our gifts. And so those beliefs, those I am statements, we really have to do a little soul searching, and we have to pull out of ourselves that which our environment and our people told us we were, and make it for ourselves. So we get to write it, we get to see it, and then we get to believe it, and we have to practice it every day.
And speaking of that, there's a that empowerment that happens from self-belief. You're believing in something actually releases neurotransmitters in your brain, and our expert here can also back me up on this. That those endorphins that get released also actually release things like dopamine, right? And that really can help you feel good in the moment. Can also repower a lot of that belief, so that there is this sort of mind-body axis that's happening, and your body is responding to this. Also, and we can talk about it a little bit later, but there are some things that you're hearing here that everyone talked about. That there's feedback. You're getting feedback from clues, whether it's order, whether it's these C's that you're talking about, going closer to the wall. You're getting these feedback signals all the time. And one of the things that I would encourage all of us just to maybe just pause a little bit is that feedback is a gift. If you're getting those signals, you're hearing that, it's causing some stress, it's causing some anxiety or feelings of such, that maybe is a time for you to use those tools in your toolbox to be able to sort of do the things you need to do to get yourself back in the right space.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that idea of feedback as that gift. And I want to weave in here an opportunity maybe for each of you, briefly for the sake of time, but to go a little bit deeper on the specific work that you do and how that threads some of those needles. So I'm actually going to start with you, Dr. Marc, and I'd love to hear a little bit about nutrition in particular and how you see that influencing maybe even our beliefs about ourselves or the ways that we're sort of showing up in the world. So what impact can that have?
Yeah, absolutely, and pleased to kind of share. We've been on this mission for the better part of almost 15 years at Kroger with our food as medicine strategy, and really what that means is it's a dedicated, educated approach to eating and enjoying food so that we can live healthier lives, but also to prevent illness before it starts. And I think it's important because we've all heard, whether it's from our grandparents, our parents, you are what you eat, and how important nutrition is. And there's so many confusing things out there about nutrition. And so we're on a mission to try to simplify that. And I just maybe want to talk about it at a macro level. Many of you in this room are not only taking care of yourselves, but you're likely taking care of others. And you're likely the one that is the CEO of the home, the CEO of economics of the home, and create a lot of opportunities around food. And we really believe that a right balance and a right balance of food can really create a winning strategy. Let me just kind of maybe dive into a little bit about that. And when we look at poor nutrition, and just think about that as not getting the right types of foods to eat or even the right quantity or amount of foods, it can create some issues with your health. And if I mention to you that 90% of the body's serotonin, that's a neurochemical that is in the brain that can help with mood and depression, actually comes from your gut. So that gut-brain axis, which can be augmented actually with some fermented foods like kimchi and kefir and yogurt, can be really beneficial with some of those probiotics that we hear. So eating the right types of things. So a balanced diet that is low in saturated fat, low in added sugar, and low in sodium can reduce some of those anti-inflammatory properties that are driving some of our top chronic diseases like diabetes and heart disease. But they also have an insidious, interwoven, I want to say, a capacity to drive things like depression and anxiety and self-doubt. Because we know that in certain limited studies that we've seen, diets that are high in sugar high in saturated fat are linked to higher rates of depression. So we know that in some of the laboratory controlled studies, you saw a greater than 40% of patients that had high sugary diets had clinical signs of depression. So we know that a diet that is really mindful in things like I mentioned, saturated fat, high sugar, and then sodium can be incredibly beneficial. And so I think the follow-up question might be, hey, Dr. Marc, what does that mean? What's Kroger doing to help us navigate that? So we have what we call an opt-up tool that allows you to kind of rate food in our stores, and you can use your phone and scan the back of a food label and understand what this means to you. So and we score our foods based on the nutrient density of the food. And so you can get a score from 1 to 100, and thinking about the higher it scores, the better for you it is, right, based on the nutrient density. So those foods that score in the green, we want that to make up more than 51% of your basket. Those that are scoring less than that, well below 50 or so, we want that's going to show up in the red, and everything else is going to be yellow. So it represents about 40% of your basket. So it really helps you to kind of get a longitudinal understanding of what's in your cart at the end of the day, end of the month. And right now, if you're shopping at Kroger, you have a nutrition score that you can look up today on our website. When you go on, it's under Nutrition Insights, and it's passively taken at the point of checkout. So there's nothing like you have to kind of put these foods into an app. As you scan any of your items, it's being scored for you. So that's a way that you can kind of take control and understand, oh, this food has a lot of sodium or a lot of added extra sugar. I should be a little bit careful. Maybe it's going to be one that I have as a treat, not as a daily. And I'll give you a personal anecdote. So for me, I was eating a brand of yogurt I won't name. This particular brand had about 14 to 16 added grams of sugar. I thought it was healthy. I'm doing the right thing. That was contributing about 10, 12 years ago to this metabolic imbalance that I had, and realized I had to remove that sugar for me, and then made a better choice. And that's just an anecdote that you can all just think about in your daily lives.
It's really neat to hear that there's an actual tool, although I'm a little nervous about
Big Brother's not
finding
watching.
well, more so just, all the things my kids put in my cart.
That's right.
I'm going to blame them. So, okay, I want to shift us a little bit, because I also, just to share with all of you, we want to leave a couple minutes at the end if your questions are arising or things you'd like our panelists to talk more about. So we've mentioned this, but I think so much of the conversation about whether it's health and wellness, physically, emotionally, mentally, we're having more of these conversations in the world. I'm also aware, as someone who's on Instagram a lot, et cetera, that can sometimes feel like it's adding to the noise or adding to the stress of what I should be doing and attending to, and et cetera. So in an attempt to kind of quiet the noise a little bit and center us maybe on like a 1 degree of change, I'd love to hear from each of you what a very simple practice might be, but if you could pick one thing that could have the biggest benefit, what might that be that you would share with everyone today? You want to start?
Sure. So I'm going to stick with that inward belief system theme that I have today, because we have so much wealth of knowledge from the movement in the body. It all stems from the body, y'all. And we're going to talk a lot about that, and we have already. So I'm going to go to that mind state again. So set and setting, mindset and setting. Where are we putting ourselves? One thing that you can do that I help people do every single day, and they pay me, and they come and give their time and all of this, that is transformative, and it's something that I do for myself. And you can all use your left hand here. Just do it with me. Left side yuck, right side heel. Our brains are hardwired not to privilege the positive. I'm going to say that again, not to privilege the positive. Our brains are problem-solving machines, and that is left side yuck. Based upon our environments and what people told us about ourselves is what we believe. That is left side yuck. The brain is looking for problems to solve. If I am unlovable and unworthy without doing, I have a left side yuck, a belief that if I don't do that stuff, and then I'm automatically, when I'm stressed, I'm doing this. How do we tackle it? Here's what we do. Right side heel. We say, this is what I feel. This is what I believe right now. This is the signal I'm getting. How can I privilege what's really around me? We're going to call that the positive now, although it's not positivity. And here's what you ask yourself. What would I rather believe about myself in this area now? What is more true? What fits the facts? Oh, I have this job. Oh, I am an entrepreneur. Oh, I was chosen for Game Changer. I am worthy of something. That is right side heel. It must match the left. Left side yuck, what would I rather heal? Write it down and then do this. Make a circle on a piece of paper, like a spoke on a wheel. Write all the areas in your life that actually prove that to you. And then speak into it, breathe into it, walk into it, drum into it, anything that gets your whole brain involved. Tell yourself that. Let yourself fully privilege the positive, and what you will find is you will start to see, it's called the RAS, the reticular activation system in the brain. It will start to notice that it was always there all along, but the brain was trying to stop you from seeing that so that it could deal with the left side yuck, which is like a saber-toothed tiger. It wants you to be safe from that, but oftentimes we already are. So left side yuck is keeping you stuck. Right side heel is where you're going. If you do that practice, you will start to see yourself unsticking from things that just seem to keep you where you always were.
I love that. Thank you for sharing. You're so welcome. Yeah. So what I would say is, what I would offer, we've talked a lot about tuning in and noticing the signals. And if I could offer one recommendation to quiet the noise, it's find something that you know resonates for you and build a practice of consistency in giving yourself that thing. For me, that thing was building a meditation practice. And I've shared this in the past, and I want to share it now. When I couldn't figure out how and when to meditate, I attached my meditation practice to something I was doing every day, which was driving to work. I was driving to work every day, at least Monday through Friday. And for me, nothing has to be 100%. As long as you're building a practice, you will find ways to integrate it in. So when I would get to work, park my car, I would plant my feet, I would feel my seat, I would close my eyes and breathe. Sometimes I used a guided meditation app and sometimes I didn't, which also meant sometimes when I was at work and I needed a moment, I would plant my feet, I would feel my seat, I would close my eyes or just soften my gaze and breathe. So for me, that was the one thing, and for some of you that might resonate, and I definitely recommend that you consider that, but like finding space to just pause. So I'm giving you kind of two, right? It's like build a consistent practice around something, but if you want that something to be really connected to your body, to your breath, to a moment of stillness, plant your feet, feel your seat, and just breathe. Attach it to something that you're doing every day anyway.
Thank you.
All very powerful messages. I would also just add to the things that you just heard about take pride in the wins. If you've made it to this room today, you're winning. You're a game changer.
That's right.
Also, and I can't help myself as a preventive medicine person, right? So get your checkups, right? Listen to those signals. Age-appropriate vaccines. Move a little more than you did yesterday. Try to eat right. And then also get enough sleep. Also, think about it in terms of if you can't take care of yourself, how can you lead and take care of others, right? You're not going to be the best version of yourself, and you want to be back in this room, not only next year, but the years following, because you want to be able to kind of change the game for others and continue to change the game for yourself and your family, but you got to be in the game to change the game.
Ooh, I love that.
I I love that. Can I share one more thing?
Sure.
Just because everyone is saying it, and one of the things that was a huge game changer for me, no pun intended, is really recognizing that no one else was going to take better care of my well-being than me. So when it comes back to beliefs and when it comes back to all of these recommendations Dr. Watkins just offered, no one else is going to make sure that I take better care of myself, and no one else has the internal cues other than me. And so that was one of my biggest belief systems, is this is my responsibility. I'm going to take it.
Thank you all so much. I think we might have time for one or two questions if anybody has something they'd like to. Yeah, awesome. We have a mic coming your way.
Sweet. I can just be loud. Hi, thank you all so much for being here. My name's Amy Vaughn. I own and run an organization called Together Digital that focuses on supporting women who work in digital marketing, advertising, and tech. And I get to hear and talk about a lot of these women's issues, not just at the workplace, but also at home and with their health. One thing I noticed during today's conversation was our ladies focused on going inward, whereas Dr. Watkins, you talked a lot about the external. And my observation is that because as women, we are conditioned to try to take care of things inwardly versus externally. So my question is, how can we as women advocate for our own physical and mental well-being at home, at work, and with our physicians? Because when it comes to certain issues like menopause, there's very little insight and data. So talking about a chemical imbalance in your body and being able to address that and advocate for yourself in that, I'm curious to hear, because I'm having those conversations with my physicians right now, and it's like a brick wall.
I'll start. Thank you for sharing. Sometimes empirically, physicians, and I've been that person as well, that will look at it as kind of a black and white issue. Keep advocating. You don't advocate for yourself, no one else will. You heard it here today. And it's make sure you're heard. Many times, and we see this in the literature today, that women often aren't heard in clinical settings. We know that black and brown women specifically aren't heard. The words don't resonate with clinicians as well, so keep advocating until you're heard, because I think that's the most powerful. If you don't think it's right for you, speak up. Don't go say, okay, the doctor said yes, I'm gonna take it. Say no. And that means with therapies, medications, dosing, if it doesn't feel right to you, it's not to challenge or be disrespectful. Just say, I don't want to do that. And then finally, if that relationship is not working with that clinician, find another one.
Okay.
So Dr. Marc, this question was for you also. Thank you all for sharing time with us. But you mentioned the metabolic imbalances, and to piggyback off of what Amy had asked, how do you check for that? Because I have advocated, I've even started going to a holistic doctor, but nobody has offered that type of testing. How do you check?
Ask for it, right? So say, hey, I'm concerned about things like diabetes, heart disease. Has anybody ever wanted to check my glucose levels? Has anyone asked to check my hormone levels? Has anyone asked to check what my kidney function looks like, my liver function? And if you don't get those answers, and I'll say it again, it's not about me as the MD up here. It's really about you. And I don't mean to point, but it's about you. Ask until you get it, right? And if they're not giving you the answers, keep asking, right? And it's okay to keep asking. But those are some of the basic tests. I'm happy to talk to you offline about other recommendations as well.
Some of the other things, would you say endocrinologists?
I would even, and this is no shameless plug, you don't need an appointment. You can go over to one of our little clinics inside of our grocery store today, and our team will help you. But there are specific tests that they can run.